So let's take a deep breath in this Sunday because we are ready to do the deep dive. Are you ready to do the deep dive? This is no fluffy stuff we're getting ready to move into here. This is no fluffy stuff. By divine appointment, you have called yourself to this day, into this time, into this space for your awakening, for your spiritual transformation, for support, for the support that is always present in every moment, but not always felt, not always seen, not always known, and not always tasted. So are you willing to say yes to this divine appointment? Because we are diving deep. We are entering into the next 7 weeks now of a series based on Richard Rohr's book, The Naked Now. He is a Franciscan priest. He is a leader of a contemplative organization, which is really a contemplative experience. So he helps people move from an idea of spirituality or an idea of religion into an experience of unification. And that, friends, is our unity practice. That is our path. That is our way. Today is about breathing the presence. Can you feel that? Would you take a breath with me? Breathing the presence. Richard Rohr says that we are actually breathing the presence. In John 14:17, you already know the Spirit is with you. The Spirit is in you. Think about this idea. See it. Can you see it? Can you know it? See if you can feel it in your body, that you could know it. Could you describe this to someone else? Teach it. Now, can you taste it? Can you really more than see it and know it, but can you feel it on a cellular level? That we are breathing the presence. We are inhaling and exhaling the presence. Let's allow our thoughts to unravel a bit further. The presence is breathing us. The presence is breathing you into this moment. Now remove the word the, because the kind of puts it into a personification, right? Remove the word the. Presence is breathing us. Presence is breathing you, breathing me into our beingness. We're here to experience this truth, not to have it just as a mental idea or spiritual practice that we read from Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the Unity founders and those who have come before us, the great saints, the sages, and the mystics, but to have it as our own experience. And I do believe that Richard Rohr does an outstanding job of putting this concept into language so that it can be embodied, so that we can break through the confines of our minds and break into the depth and the unlimited nature of an authentic, raw, real spiritual practice. This adventure is about moving from thought into experience, from head to heart, from idea into full body. The human condition, I believe, is one of navigating the journey of discomfort, of unpredictability, of the lack of control and feeling that we have a lack of control. The spiritual journey is about a pilgrimage to have peace in the midst of mystery, to experience a sense of calm, to experience ourselves as being grounded, to experience our spiritual self in the midst of the full human condition, in the midst of polarity and dualism, in the midst of having a human mind, in the midst of having a pain body and emotions that are interesting, to say the least, to be able to experience our true nature, even in the midst of discord and war, in the midst of discomfort and suffering, to experience the fullness of life without being torn apart by it, and instead being broken open and invited into the fullness of this spiritual experience. So here we are, ready to fully embrace being human and fully embrace our spiritual truth. So Richard Rohr has the conversation with us in this book about being a person of religion or a mystic. Being a person of religion or a mystic. And I would include in religion that idea of non-religion. Because you know, atheism, you still hear the word theism, don't you? So even atheism is a God idea. It's an idea about God. It's not really an absence of God idea. It's a definition of God idea. And the definition of God in that idea is a nothingness, or it can also be agnostic and be an unknownness. So are we willing to break through the confines of religion and limitation in the human condition and step into the mystery of mysticism? Now, for some of us, even saying those words can be overwhelming, can feel out of reach and airy-fairy, can feel like something for textbooks, something for Bibles, something for synagogues and temples, something for saints, sages, and priests, but not something for me. I invite you to suspend that limitation, to suspend that belief for 7 weeks. Every time that belief comes up, every time that idea comes up, that mysticism is something for shamans, but not for me, to just say, I see you, thought, and set it beside you like a cup of tea. You can watch it, you can observe it, but we invite ourselves and allow ourselves not to pick it up and drink from it. It may be helpful to think about it in this way. We, in this human condition, have the availability of a type of mind, type of thinking. So we can think about it as, rather than being a person of religion or a mystic. Oh, I'm a mystic. Whoa, I'm a mystic. Let me put that on Facebook as my description, right? Where do I work? Mysticism, the field of mysticism. Rather than going into that type of thinking, can we think about it just simply, get down to earth with it? Am I in my religious mind, or am I in my mystic mind? Is this coming from my mystic self, my mystic mind? Or is this coming from my human mind, my limited mind? Is it coming from my potential? Is it coming from my spiritual self, my spiritual mind? Richard Rohr says that often people use their God language, he says, as a cover-up for their own lack of certainty or depth. That we can use our God language as a cover-up for our own lack of certainty or depth. Have we noticed this in the world around us? And have we noticed it coming from us? That there is sometimes so much talk about God, so much talk about knowing. I know what heaven and hell are. I know what God is. I know what spirituality is. I know I can define it for you. Why don't you come into my understanding? Because I have discovered it, and here it is for you. This is the right way. This is the right way to breathe. This is the right way to pray. This is the right way to think. This is the right way to be human and spiritual. Follow me, follow this. Do this, do that. I've got the answer. Can we be with the discomfort of knowing that we do not know. That in fact, there is so much we do not know. But if we would only take the step from the religious mind into the mystic mind, we would recognize that on some level, knowing becomes totally irrelevant when it's related to the human condition. Because it's not about knowing, it's about experiencing. It's about feeling our wholeness. It's about experiencing our oneness. It's about moving from an idea of unification or unity into an authentic, natural, now moment, all encompassing experience. Richard Rohr breaks down the idea of a mystic and what is a mystic. And you'll find definitions all over the place. Some may conflict with others. But he says this, and I like it. It simply means one who is moved from mere belief systems or belonging systems to an actual inner experience. How is that for digestible? Can you metabolize that? He goes on to say, some call this movement conversion, some call it enlightenment, some call it transformation, and some holiness. What do you call it? What do you call it? You don't need to call it something, but you might take a dive into that question to see if you call it something that you also see or think or feel as unattainable. And if so, you might break it down and bring it down into something that is digestible, something you can metabolize. Get rid of all the old inherited ideas, get rid of everything from your education, everything you've been taught, everything that you've bought from this world, and allow it to breathe from your heart. Allow it to come to you, because you are a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. And you have a unique God language that is your own. And only, I believe, only when we step into that and when we peel off all of the other layers, when we let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, can we truly be invited into this deeper experience. Think about calling it the present moment experience, present moment awareness. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about that. That's the whole basis of his work. That if we could actually be in this present moment, this moment right now, without being in what comes next, without being in what came before, without being, I even want to share this with someone else. Let me think about that. Let me start planning that. Let me be in my thinking patterns. Let me be in my feeling or emotion patterns. If we can just breathe into this right now and go, this is the holy moment. This is the one moment. This is existence. This is me being breathed into being. The presence is breathing me, and I am being breathed into my beingness. Can we make it attainable? Maybe it's here for you right now already. And then can we ask ourselves, what do we do with it when we get it? For so many, we've had glimpses or experiences of the now moment or awakening, enlightenment, holiness, transformation. And then we've also had experiences where we're in our pain body and we're in our limitation, we're in our judgment, we're in our whatever you want to call it. You call it what your stuff is. It's a gift to know what it is, and it's a gift to know what to call it, and it's a gift to know when you're in it. But what do we do with the holy moment when we experience it? Do we analyze it? Do we commit to teaching it, teaching others how to get there, teaching them exactly what we experienced and what they should be looking for and how to do it? Do we use it to polarize, to convert, to condemn? Or do we allow it to soften us? Can you feel that with me? Do we allow it to soften us, to open us, to break us open into expansive experiences of compassion, hope, love? What we have been searching for, we have been searching with. What I am looking for, I am looking with. That's our affirmation. What I am looking for, I am looking with. What I am looking for, I am looking with. Richard Rohr really goes into the description of what the human condition and the spiritual condition are, as far as how we see and experience our experience and our world. And he talks about having 3 sets of eyes, 3 types of vision. The first is seeing, the ability to see, the eyes of the flesh, that we can see the world, we can see our experience, we can see life, spirit, but it's of the flesh, of the thoughts, of the senses. And that is good, he says. It's good to have that awareness, but we don't want to stop there. We don't want to stop at just seeing the world, seeing ourselves, seeing life. The second type of vision, a type of seeing, is the eye of knowledge, the eye of reason. That when we see, we have the power to make sense of something. We have the power to explain it. We can use our imagination, our intuition, and reason. We have the option in life of meditation and reflection that kind of brings just seeing, okay, this is life, this is me, this is God consciousness, I could see this, to really being able to make sense out of it, to be able to describe it, to be able to show someone else, and to meditate on, to reflect on what we are, what we live, move, and have our being in. And then he describes something called third eye seeing. Third eye seeing. And he says that this is the eye of tasting, the eye of really getting into true understanding, getting into our connectedness, getting into unification. This is the eye of contemplation and the contemplative practice. This is the way the mystics see. You know, I was just on a road trip, and whenever you're in different places, right, or just in general in life, right, you have the opportunity now. It used to be you had to take a camera with you, right? You had to get a camera and you had to have it with you. Now you've got it like attached to your back pocket all the time, right? And so as I was on this road trip and going through the Blue Ridge Mountains and going through the gorgeous forests and the lakes and just seeing all of this beauty, I would see it and I would experience it, and then I would want to capture it on my phone. And what happens when I capture it on my phone? There I am. Oh, look at it. Look at it. I could see it through the lens of my phone. And it's a little different, right? Seeing it through that little square. I am once removed from it, right? I've seen it, but actually, you know what's kind of cool now is that can also give me some perspective, because I can stick my little finger on that device and I can actually zoom in and see things that I couldn't see if I wasn't using that device. And I can capture it Because somewhere in my being, I'm going, oh, I either want to save this for later. I want to save it for memory row, right? For being able to recreate that, to share that with my daughter and say, look, this is where we were. This is what we did. This was you then. Or share it with someone else when I get back home. So you've got the, I see it first. Here I am. Then you've got the, let me capture it so I can describe it. And then you've got the third eye seeing, which is one beyond both of those, which is let this moment be full and complete as it is. Not to make number one wrong, not to make number two wrong, because the moment we make it wrong, it's just the same as making it right. It is what it is. But am I fully present? How can I be more present? How can I realize that this moment is breathing me? I was on this trip with my little one and with my beloved minister friend. And there was a moment on one of the hikes to a waterfall where she just stopped. She stopped and she started breathing. And she just, by her presence, stopped all of us and acknowledged what she was feeling in that moment. And her eyes filled up with tears. And it was like she was transported from history to future to right now. And the fullness of that just overflowed from her like the glory of the waterfall that we had just seen. And tears just began to trickle from her eyes as words couldn't meet the moment. That, friends, is third eye seeing. When we allow ourselves to be taken, when we allow ourselves to be delivered into an experience of unification, of wholeness, of beauty with all life. I want to share with you a couple of powerful excerpts from Richard Rohr's book about third eye seeing and the mystics. He says this: third eye seeing is the way the mystics see. They do not reject the first eye, the senses matter to them. But they know there is more. They do not reject the second eye, but they know not to confuse knowledge with depth, or mere correct information with the transformation of consciousness itself. The mystical gaze builds upon the first two eyes and yet goes further. It happens whenever, by some wondrous coincidence, our heart space, our mind space, and our body awareness are all simultaneously open and non-resistant. He goes on to say, I like to call it presence. It is experienced as a moment of deep inner connection, and it always pulls you, intensely satisfied, into the naked and undefended now, which can involve both profound joy and profound sadness. At that point, you either want to write poetry, pray, or be utterly silent. He goes on to say, the third eye person has always been the saint, the seer, the poet, the metaphysician, or the authentic mystic who grasped the whole picture. There is more to the mystical gaze, however, than having ecstatic visions. If people have ignored the first and the second eyes, their hold on the third eye is often temporary, shallow, and incapable of being shared with anybody else. We need true mystics who can see with all three sets of eyes, not eccentrics, fanatics, or rebels. The true mystic is always both humble and compassionate, for she knows that she does not know. He goes on to describe the problem with being only in one set of eyes. about seeing with dualistic thinking, this or that, right or wrong. And he says it's hardly an exaggeration to say that us and them seeing and the dualistic thinking that results is the foundation of almost all discontent and violence in the world. The foundation, I would say, of polarization, the foundation of discord. That is the dark side, you might say, of getting stuck in one type of vision, becoming fanatic, thinking because I experienced something in this way, this is what it is, and this is how it is for everyone else, and everyone needs to get what I got. They need to follow what I followed. Even the master teacher said, don't follow me. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the I am, and so are you. Follow that. Stop looking at me and raising me up and asking questions and dissecting and analyzing everything about me and my walk and my unification. What I can do is breathe the presence and know that I am being breathed into this moment. Share that with you and remind you that you are the way. One of my favorite pieces of this book is this little line, and he goes back to it a few times, but he says, transformed people transform people. So there's our litmus test for ourselves, for humanity, because I think the opposite is probably also true. Hurt people hurt people. People in suffering create suffering. People in judgment judge. Transformed people transform people. So can we use that not as a crutch or a crucifix, but can we use that just to see what mind we're in? I am about transformation right now. So I'm in my freedom mind. I'm in my potential mind. I'm in my spiritual mind. I'm in my unlimited mind. Or, wow, look at where I am right now. I'm in my dogma mind. I'm in my religious mind. I'm in my human mind. I'm in my limited mind. When he talks about the religious mind and the human mind, he goes into the downside of religion. And I think we know a lot about the downside of religion, and some people may think it's funny for a spiritual community to pick a book that talks about how dysfunctional and unhelpful religion can be in this world, and how in fact it can try to sustain itself by drawing people in and saying, you have to have us. You have to have more of this. You have to give to this. In Unity, we embrace that. We embrace that because we are not a community of spiritual seekers and practitioners, mystics and metaphysicians that are here to be dissecting each other and telling each other what to do. We are here walking the path of awakening together with as much freedom that we can embody when we come together with structure. Richard Rohr says this. He says, even much of religion itself has become a search for social order, group cohesion, and personal worthiness, or a way of escaping into the next world, which unfortunately destroys most of its transforming power. True spirituality, he says, is not a search for perfection or control or the door to the next world. It is a search for divine union now. The great discovery is always that what we are searching for has already been given. What we are searching for has already been given. Can that be another one of our affirmations for the day? What I am searching for has already been given. That's the foundation. That's the framework. I stand on this and let me see everything through these eyes so that I can awaken to what is. Can I give up the search for perfection for the experience of union? Can I even give up my desire for understanding, my desire to put God into a box or write a bio up, or hand in my spiritual resume to show I've done it all. Here I am. For the simple, raw, naked, authentic experience of union in the now moment. One that can't be captured on a camera, can't even be written in a book. Can't even be written in a book. Can I give that up? Give up trying always so hard to get the answers, or just recognize when I'm trying, that's what the human does. That's what the human mind in me does. There it is. Trying to get the answers, trying to get into the driver's seat, staying, as Richard Rohr says, staying so close to what you can be sure of. And if you have not gotten this book yet, you're going to want to probably pick it up, because there is so much more than I could encapsulate in this Sunday conversation. He paints a picture of what I think are just aspects of our mind where we can see ourselves in these descriptions, so that we can go, oh, I do that. I even use my spirituality for that. Let me break free from that. Let me move beyond that. I use my knowing even for that. Let me unleash myself. He says that we sometimes seek importance, or as he calls it, we start building bigger barns. We keep busy. We engage in consumerism. We embody immature transcendence and dualistic thinking that splits us off, he says, from experience. He says that we engage in a series of manufactured dramas. We manufacture dramas, entertainment, and diversionary tactics intended to help us avoid the substantial consequences, the substantial questions, the substantial experience of life. He goes on to say the most amazing fact about Jesus, unlike almost any of the religious founders, is that he found God in disorder and imperfection. And he told us that we must do the same, or we would never be content on this earth. I'm not on mute right now. He found God in disorder and imperfection and told us that we must do the same, or we would never be content on this earth. Can we speak to that inner child within? Can we let ourselves off the hook? The part of us that wants to control, the part of us that's trying so hard. Can we whisper this to that self? That you can find God even in imperfection and disorder. God is here even in imperfection or disorder. Put in your name for the source. Presence, love, light is here even in the midst of imperfection, disorder. Your wholeness is here now, even in the midst. He says that is what makes Jesus so counterintuitive to most eras and cultures, and why most never perceived the great good news in this utter shift of consciousness. That failure to understand his core message and a concrete program by which you could experience this truth for yourself is the center of our religious problems today. So what is the bridge? What's the link? The link between third eye seeing and the link between the human condition of the religious mind? How do we move from being stuck or just being where we are into the fullness, into our pure potential? He goes into the concept of prayer and prayer in the unity way. He says that prayer is practicing heaven now. Prayer is practicing heaven now. Prayer is third eye seeing. As Teresa of Avila said, you find God in yourself and yourself in God. You find God in yourself and yourself in God. He goes on to talk about the idea of ask and it's given. And he says, asking for something from God does not mean talking God into it. It means an awakening of the gift within ourselves. It's like turning on the lights, welcoming in awareness. He says, God then becomes more of a verb than a noun, more of a process than a conclusion, more of an experience than a dogma, more a personal relationship than an idea. He says there is someone dancing with you and you are not afraid of making mistakes. Feel that for real. On this planet, on this earth, where we can all, even though there's so many of us and we have so much togetherness and togetherness time, we can feel so isolated and abandoned on this journey as a human. We can feel so alone. But breathe into that, see it, sense it, think it, taste it. There is someone dancing with you. You might even say, presence is dancing you. Dancing with you so closely, there is no dualism. And you are not afraid of making mistakes. What would it be like to be on this planet, in this body, at this time, in this space, and have no fear of making mistakes? Have no fear of being wrong, doing it wrong, thinking wrong, seeing it wrong, saying something wrong, living wrong, wrong, not being enough, fill in the blank. But instead to recognize there's someone dancing with you. And if you think about real dancing with a part that knows how to dance, right? There are moves and there are motions and there's holding in such a way that there is a firmness and a closeness, but also a looseness and an ability to flow, an ability to move. But you know, with every dip, with every turn, you are held. True dance partners come together in a way that they can lift, they can twirl, they can bend, and they can dip without a thought of being dropped, because there is a unity there. This is our birthright. This is part of our awakening. Richard Rohr says, to live in such a way is to live inside of an unexplainable hope, because your life will now feel much larger than your own. In fact, it is not your own life, yet paradoxically, you are more than you ever were before. You are more than ever before. That is the constant and consistent experience of the mystics. Their vision that can also be your own. From Genesis 28:16, he shares, God, you were here all along, and I never knew it. Breathe into that. Have you ever had a relationship that you felt more you than you've ever felt when you came together with another soul on the planet? Whether it's a child, a mother, a friend. But in this coming together, you experienced more of the fullness of who and whose and what you are. You feel like you're the best you've ever been. And then we have relationships where we don't even recognize ourselves. Like, who is this woman that's showing up now? I just married my brother in North Carolina. Does that sound funny? I just performed the wedding ceremony of my baby brother, who is very big and tall. And in the wedding ceremony were these lines that captured my heart. But it was this: may you be both bound and freed by this union. May you be both bound and freed by this union. If anyone has been single for a long time that likes to dance, you know the value of what it's like to have a dance partner that knows your body, that knows how to move with you, that you learn. When there is a union, you can do things in that dance that you couldn't do if you were just swinging by yourself, right? You come together and you open up more possibilities. So too is it in our union with presence. When we recognize that there are not two forces, me and God, out there, over there, this person's God, that person's God. There is simply the presence. And what I have been searching for, I am searching with. The great indwelling, as Richard Rohr calls it. And when we know our birthright, we recognize and acknowledge that we are breathing the presence and we are being breathed.